Don't solve future problems. Is this you? Do you watch a lot of content, consume a lot of content, purchase a lot of courses, plan, have continuous notes, maybe saved in Notion, all these workbooks and playbooks? Well, that has been me for a very long time, so I completely understand where you're at. It's amazing how sometimes something phrased in a particular way is something that we're aware of, but it really resonates and really connects. Don't solve future problems. I've never heard anybody put that in such perspective. However, I recently heard that a video somewhere in a list of best business practices or strategies. Iman Gadzhi had shared that don't solve future business problems. And I stopped and paused when I heard that to process it. But hearing that really resonated and connected. It maybe connects with you as well. And that's something that's very easy to do when you enjoy learning and acquiring knowledge and testing out new software. A lot of the marketing promotions is so compelling, it's difficult to not say no. A lot of the software out there, courses, you can see right up front, have value. In most cases, they're not at a step where you need to solve a current problem that's holding you back. And I probably had heard that. I'd probably heard that of focus on one thing, the information overload, procrastination, all of these different things, yet I was devouring content for years and decades, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't until years later that I learned about dopamine, right, and how our brain works and why that is such this continuous path of consuming content, yet maybe not implementing. So that's what this entire story is about. It's about learning at a pace that's things that you could actually implement in the moment. So take this YouTube channel, for instance. I wish there was a way I could calculate the amount of YouTube content I consumed about starting a YouTube channel, courses that I purchased, all of them that were super valuable, all made sense. If somebody had asked me a question, I could answer all the questions. I remember once, this was years ago, somebody had a question about uploading a video, and I couldn't answer it. I could answer all these really complicated optimization questions and everything else. And it dawned on me, I had never uploaded a video. And what happens, we do this to ourselves. We just information overload ourselves with the thought that, hey, that information is going to be valuable in the future. So let me give you an example. With this YouTube channel, once I finally decided, okay, there's a lot of personal business stories that I can share that I feel have value, can be entertaining, and I locked in on that. That was the one thing that was holding me back, because there was we have a lot of interest, and there's always that picking the niche, being the niche, starting very niche, going broad, all these different strategies, maybe going broad and then finding out what works and then niching down. There's so many different angles to attack this, when the real thing is we do need to get started is probably one of the main roadblocks. So once you have that idea, things that you can easily speak to, maybe you're documenting, as Gary Vee says, documenting the process of learning YouTube or whatever your new business model or whatever it is that you're approaching at the moment. Maybe it's a fitness goal, but that getting started is so key. So for me, it was that defining, okay, these are the topics I want to talk about. That would be something that I feel I can easily speak to. I don't need big scripts or anything else. And then it was, okay, record the video. What am I going to use? Am I going to use a webcam? Am I going to use my iPhone? And I decided, hey, the iPhone's probably going to be easiest, using the DJI mic, which I've had for a long time. This is the DJI, not the DJI 2, but the original wireless mic. But I had all the pieces, just had to put them together. So then got that connected, and I just used the camera app on iPhone and film those first videos. If you go back to those are on the camera app, the native app, and things seemed to work fine, until the camera app just would zoom in massively, like this like my whole face like this close. It was insane. And I left those in there as a learning experience and not to get bogged down in the editing process. So if you go back to those earlier videos, you'll find some of those videos where that weird zooming was happening. And I used AI, did all this research, watched a ton of YouTube videos to try to solve that problem. But I didn't know I had that problem, and still I uploaded a video. Even learning about that before all of this would have made me aware, would have set some expectations, but I would have still, in the moment, to solve that problem, had to gone back and rewatched all that content. So in that moment, did a ton of research, did various tests of setting the various microphone gain to increase the loudness on the transmitter and then on the mic. Watched a ton of YouTube videos there, tried all these different settings, and it was really hit or miss. So on those first videos, felt like they're very low. Tried all these things to adjust that. That issue that I said I had with the unnecessary zoom, I tried so many settings in that and finally got to the point where like, this is going to be hit or miss on every single video. I need to resolve this. So using AI, one of the recommendations was the Blackmagic app. Now, when you first install it and look at it, that thing looks crazy overwhelming. But then again, I went back to AI. Hey, what are the basic settings that I need to set up on this thing? And it made it very easy. So I solved these things step by step. So now we got the Blackmagic app, so we don't have the crazy zoom in, but I was still getting that really the challenge of the loudness of the videos. So those very first ones, I think they're clear, but I just feel you've got to boost the video a little bit. So then I went down that whole rabbit hole to solve that issue. Went back to AI, used Claude, I used ChatGPT. We came up with all these different configurations for the DJI mic to solve that issue with the audio. And I think I just deleted, but I had 20 videos in there testing various settings on the audio, and it still was inconsistent, because if you use iMovie as a beginner, which I use, you can increase the percentage, increase the loudness, but nothing was consistent. So there I went from inconsistent crazy zooming to inconsistent audio to then realizing I made all those tests, asking ChatGPT, asking Claude, sent me down similar paths. Then I posed that same question with a summary of all that information from those two into Gemini. And Gemini had a completely different solution. It said, hey, you're already using the Blackmagic app. Why don't you use DaVinci Resolve for your editing software instead of iMovie? And I'd never thought about that. I didn't know those two were from the same parent company and they would integrate really well. Dove into that. It looked like rocket science looking at that interface, but again, worked through those, and it took some time and a lot of back and forth with AI, getting some configurations and settings. I should do a video on that in the future, what exact settings that I did use that solved it. Hopefully we're sounding smooth for now. But none of this would have happened without taking that first step of uploading a video, running into some issues, solving that, moving on to the next, moving on to the next. That occurred in the matter of, let's see, 8 to 10 weeks, somewhere around that time frame, which comparatively to watching videos and content and courses for years, maybe into the decades, was great. It was fun. It was entertaining. I'm aware of a lot of different aspects to YouTube and things like that, but it is nothing like taking the action, moving forward, solving one of the roadblocks, moving on to the next. And what's incredible too, and I want to probably do another video on this too, is once that intention was clear on YouTube is the path, all of these things made sense. All the videos I used to watch that were confusing to me made sense. From watching a ton of videos on editing to uploading the first video and then looking for a video and then finding a video short that answered all the beginner questions to get started with it. And it was an iMovie at the time, but it answered everything I needed to do, from uploading to exporting to increasing that audio piece to clipping the front and the end of the video. all in under 5 minutes, where I'd probably spent hours and days of consuming content in the past. So think about that in your current situation if you're running into that type of experience of, and we hear this all the time, that we're going to learn so much by doing, but it's until we do it that we learn it. And now I look back at myself as though I was a crazy person taking the path that I did. But before you know it, you'll be so far down the path of doing, taking action, solving challenges that you won't even identify with that old person. So you're changing your identity in this whole process. But hearing Iman Gadzhi say that don't solve future problems is exactly what I was trying to do. I just didn't have a way to identify it. And hopefully this is an answer for you as well. A lot of the procrastination, trying to learn everything before we launch that first video or take the first step on our journey, is because we're trying to solve all these future problems. And there's no way that's going to work, for one. And two, even if I had stumbled across something that discussed these audio issues and the zooming in, I would have been aware of it, which would have been good. Like, okay, this is a known issue. Let me go back and find that information. But I couldn't have implemented it. I would have had gone back into it, because you've got to look at the instructions, implement it, and you're really just doing double the work, to be truthful. You'll move a lot faster as you implement in the moment. So ask yourself that question. Are you currently solving problems that are directly in front of you that need to be solved? Or is what's holding you back, you're trying to solve future problems that are 5 steps down the road? So hope that helps. Keep that in mind. Keep moving forward. Take that first step. Excited that you're here, and we'll talk soon. Thanks again.